So, Judas, one of the 12, one of Jesus' disciples, betrays him. We know that story, and again, that presents a couple of ideas about who Judas might have been. It tries to, I think, explain away some of the blame that poor Judas has gotten over the years. It tries to maybe understand a different side of his story. If Judas is truly one of the revolutionary people, he could have been expecting Jesus to be that conquering hero that we talked about earlier. The Messiah that would come into Jerusalem and overthrow Rome with power and might. And so his expectations could have been disappointed when Jesus doesn't do any of that and instead picks another way. So we pick up then the video also talked about the other thing that we celebrate on Maundy, Thursday. And this one we don't do as often because we get uncomfortable with it, and that's washing feet. Has anybody ever done that on Maundy, Thursday? Washed somebody's feet? Okay. People get kind of weird about their feet. All right.
We did that at Rainbow Trail.
Yep. So turn to John 13, and we'll read that story. This is also a very important story to Jesus' ministry. It's only written about in John, but we celebrate it on Maundy, Thursday, so we're going to read it now. So if you'll pick up John chapter 13.
1779.
What is that?
1779.
Okay. Well, this is a little bit longer of a story. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Everybody there? Everybody there?
Yep.
All right. Cora, kick us off again.
Now before the festival of the Passover, Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart from this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end.
The devil had already put it into the heart of Judas, son of Simon Iscariot, to betray him. And during supper,
Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things to his hands, and that he had come from God and was going to God,
got up from the table, took off his outer robe, and tied a towel around himself. Then
he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with a towel that was tied around him.
He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, Lord, are you going to wash my feet?
Jesus answered, You do not know now what I am doing, but later you will understand.
Peter said to him, You will never wash my feet. Jesus answered, Unless I wash you, you have no share with me.
Simon Peter said to him, Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head.
Jesus said to him, One who has bathed does not need to wash except for the feet, but it is entirely clean, and you are clean, though not all of you.
For he knew who was to betray him. For this reason he said, Not all of you are clean.
After he had washed their feet, and put on his robe, and returned to the table, he said to them, Do you know what I have done to you?
You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, for that is what I am.
So, if I, your Lord the teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet.
For I have set you an example, that you also should do as I have done to you.
Very truly I tell you, servants are not greater than their masters, nor are things you are blessed if you do them.
No, messengers.
God dang it. The Lord messengers greater than the one who sent them.
If you know these things, you are blessed if you do them. I don't know.
I'm not speaking of all of things. You are blessed.
No, all of you.
Oh, all of you. I know whom I have chosen, but it is to fulfill the scripture. The one who ate my bread has lifted his heel against me.
I tell you this now before it occurs, so that when it does occur, you may believe that I am he.
Very truly I tell you, whoever receives one whom I sent receives me, and whoever receives me receives him who sent me.
All right. This is another very, again, only recorded in John's Gospel. The story of the washing of the disciples' feet happens on the same night that we just read about, that night of Passover. All right, so again, it's connected to that same thing. So we're sitting at the table with Jesus. We're remembering the Passover with him, that great story of liberation and salvation from Exodus. And so this is probably after dinner at this point, after he shared the bread and the wine, and he gets down and he gives us probably a great snapshot of his ministry. What does he do here to the disciples? Washes their feet. Okay? That doesn't seem like a big deal to us. Does anybody ever wash your feet on a regular basis?
When I am in the shower.
Okay, besides yourself. So you hopefully all wash your own feet. That's a very healthy thing to do. All right? But does somebody else...
Whenever they give like a mani-pedi.
Okay,
A
okay.
mani-pedi.
So,
I like how
pedicure,
you
somebody
raise your
may...
hand.
Do they wash your feet in pedicure?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm like.
I don't think that's what Jesus had in mind, but apt example. Thank you. Anybody else wash your feet?
I do. I want my feet right in the elder.
Dalton, what do y'all do at Rainbow Trail? What's the...
Well, it's what we decided to do one night because we were in charge of the worship, and we decided to watch other people's feet.
Okay. Why did y'all decide to wash other people's feet? Do you remember? Don't remember?
I didn't let y'all do it. So
Okay.
I was wearing my Uggs.
Those of you
I
who
had
have,
to wash hers.
who have any kind of animal, do you ever wash their feet?
Yes.
When I give her
I
a
wash
bath,
my
I
pig's
mean,
feet. They're on their own.
when
I
I
wash
wash
my
her
pig's feet.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I was sitting with baseball. I was sitting with baseball that day.
Hang with me, hang with me. Hang with me. So, we wear shoes, some of us, that are closed-toed in nature. Alright? The time of Jesus, they wear sandals. They don't have lace-up shoes like we do. And so feet get very dirty. Alright? They also don't bathe on a regular basis like we do. But something that a servant would do if a place had great hospitality would be to wash your feet. But important people don't wash other folks' feet. We're talking somebody that's down the social ladder a little bit. Here, Jesus is reversing that, giving us an example. Alright? Jesus humbles himself to wash his disciples' feet. We had a phrase earlier. Jesus came into Jerusalem as what kind of king?
Humble.
Humble king.
What did I say?
You said servant. That's what. So that's what we're getting at here. So washing your feet, this really drives home Jesus is a humble servant. All right, that's your question or your answer.
I need tissue. I need tissue. Let's sneeze.
So Jesus is a humble servant. All right, and as a humble servant, what he's demonstrating here and what he tells to the disciples in a nutshell. Let's look at verses 14 and 15. So this is kind of that command part of what Jesus is giving his disciples. 14 and 15. Who can read those? Go for it. Read 14 and 15.
If I can find it. So if I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, so also you ought to wash one another's feet. For I have set you an example, so that you also should do as I have done to you.
Let's read that next one too. Daisy, can you keep going? 16.
Very truly I tell you, servants are not greater than their master, nor are messengers greater than the one who sent them.
Okay, so we've got the example. Jesus, as humble servant, wants us to do what?
Go out and wash feet.
Okay, go out and wash feet. Great.
Like literally?
No,
Maybe.
sometimes.
But
Humble.
I don't
Be humble.
like
Okay.
Be humble.
Okay, so let's run it metaphorically. I think that there may be an element of Jesus telling us we've got to be able to humble ourselves and wash each other's feet. There's that element to it. But let's think metaphorically. What is Jesus saying? Dalton, keep going with what you were saying.
Be humble to others.
Be humble to others and do what?
Serve them.
Serve them, yes.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on here at the table. Jesus is humbling himself, kneeling at the disciples' feet, serving them. All right, and this seems like a very simple act, but it's working itself out on a much greater level. All right, this strips away kind of the pride, the ego piece that we all struggle with. All right, this places the example that we are to serve others. So that question there is, how do we enact this example with our lives? What are some ways that we serve others, that we participate in this humble service?
School. Church. School.
How at school?
Dang.
Like during group work,
Okay, how do y'all serve each other during group work?
we help each other,
Do your share.
yeah.
Okay, so it's one about, pulling my weight, doing my share, but helping those that may need help. What else, Luke?
What's it called? In church,
In church.
I can't think of it.
Acolyte.
Remember, like, you light the candles and stuff?
Acolyting. Oh, there you go, acolyting. So how do you serve in acolyting? What are you doing as service there?
So you're, like, helping with, like, the communion and
Okay.
stuff. Like,
So you're serving the larger congregation in that role.
yes.
Good. Cora, how are you serving?
Well, I serve because I tell people about confirmation and I invite them to come with me, and I am like, if people don't go to church a lot, like my dad doesn't go to church a lot, so I like drag him to church.
Okay.
You are going to
That's
church
a way of
whether you're
serving.
like it or
Okay.
not.
I could
Community service.
Okay, one more, community service, right? We do that a lot. We're going to try to do that more with confirmation. But all of these examples point us back to what? Jesus as the humble servant, and then his telling the disciples there, just as I have done this for you, you also ought to do it for other people. All right? He's inviting us to do the same thing, to be humble servants. Okay? So this is kind of the third movement of Holy Week. All right? Maundy Thursday. So we've talked about Palm Sunday, Maundy Thursday. Maundy Thursday is about communion, washing feet, humble service. And then we move to the Friday we call...
You showed her me in class today. My teacher wouldn't come close to me at a 10-foot radius.
All right.
Miss August doesn't even come near me.
Holy Friday.
All right.
No, because she's afraid of
Would you like a marker?
No,
Please, not the
I'm
blue
right
one.
here.
Not the
Okay.
one. That one smells and closes on my throat.
What time is that? All the way around. It is currently 5:57.
All right, I want you to open up to Mark 15, 25.
It's on your forehead.
That's ashes.
Ashes.
There are ashes on my forehead.
I got ashes on my forehead. This morning.
I thought it was a stamp. I'm sorry.
I thought it was like rubbed on shards.
Were you at St. Mary's? Were you at St. Mary's?
No, I was here.
Oh.
We did.
Well, I got mine this morning.
Okay. Everybody assumes only Catholics do ashes. Lutherans do them too, and there's other churches that.
Well, I got mine this morning by my coach, and he like did a big old cross on my forehead. He was like, after I did him, I got an itch on my forehead, so I started scratching it and it went away.
All right, Mark 15, 25 to
So
39.
then he got one. My dad got mad at me because I
What page are we at?
1690.
What?
1690.
Yes.
I'll wear Mark.
Let's start over here with Kagan and go this way.
Wait, which one are we at?
25 to 25.
It is Mark 15, 25 to 39.
Yeah.
Look at these shoes.
Bless you.
And your thing, and
This is
Go ahead.
It was 9 o'clock in the morning when they crucified him. The inscription of the charge against him read, "The King of the Jews."
And with him they crucified two bandits, one on his right and one on his left.
Verse 29.
Those who passed by derided him, shaking their heads and saying, you who would destroy the temple and build it in 3 days.
Save yourself and come down from the cross.
In the same way, the chief priests, along with the scribes, were also mocking him along themselves and saying, "He saved others and he cannot save himself."
Let the Messiah, the King of Israel, come down from the cross now, so that we may see and believe. Those who were crucified with him also taunted.
When it was noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon.
At 3 o'clock, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lema sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?"
When some of the bystanders heard it, they said, "Listen, he is calling for Elijah."
And someone filled a sponge with sour wine and put it on a stick and gave it to him to drink, saying, "Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to take him down."
Here. Sorry. Then Jesus gave a loud cry and breathed his last.
And the curtain of the temple was torn into from top to bottom.
Now when Jesus stood facing him and saw that in this way he breathed his last, he said, "Truly this man was God's son."
Very good. All right. So what are we remembering on Good Friday, Cora?
Jesus' crucifixion.
Jesus' crucifixion. So his suffering and death.
Wait, what? Where do we write that?
You don't write that anymore.
I'm just writing it. On Good Friday, we're observing Jesus' suffering and death. So Jesus was telling others to be what kind of servant?
Humble.
Humble servant. But in this case, Jesus is like the ultimate humble servant. He is acting here as a suffering servant. Write that in your first blank. So Jesus came to teach us, but he also came to suffer for us and with us. Okay, he came down as God in what form? Human baby, yes, human form. So Jesus suffered the human life with us. He experienced it with us, but then he also suffered for us, for our sins. And then next week we'll talk about Easter. Without Easter, it's just a guy who came and died. But Easter is part of, his resurrection is part of what makes us Christians. Okay? So Jesus is present with us in our suffering.
Wait,
Why is the bunny associated with Easter then? Because people want it to be.
It's kind of like how Santa Claus is associated with Christmas. Make it fun. People.
The only thing I can understand is the eggs because he came out.
There's a lot of symbolism.
The eggs is the only thing I can understand is because he came out of the chamber, so whenever you open it up, you're
the tomb.
The tomb.
It is right.
Sorry. How do you spell T-O-M-B?
Okay.
You go to St. Mary's.
The Easter Bunny is a pagan thing.
Bunny is a what thing?
Pagan.
What's pagan?
Pagan is not
Plus a
Christian.
religion.
Okay, so Jesus is present with us in our suffering. Jesus is present with us in our suffering as well. That's your second blank. Write it down.
Okay. What was it?
So Jesus suffered and died for us, but Jesus is also present with us in our suffering. All right. So how and where do you see Jesus suffering in the verses that we just read? On the cross? How did he suffer on the cross?
He was nailed up there.
He was in pain.
Yes, he was nailed. Hands and feet. And, okay, Cora?
Well, I don't think we read this, but like when he was going, like he was carrying the cross up the mountain.
Yes, that's
And
also part
and
of,
a crown of thorns.
that's also part
Just
of,
that whole thing is not it.
that's also part of Good Friday. We
They
did
made
read it.
nailed to a stake and died.
I watched this.
He was
Yes.
nailed to a stake. Well, that's very what it is.
A steak.
Well, it's
It was a.
So before Jesus was on the cross,
it's
he was flogged, which means,
Flogged?
he was whipped.
Oh.
They put a crown of thorns on his head. How else is he suffering in here?
Getting
Sour wine.
What?
Yes. Sour wine.
Sour wine.
Elijah. To get Elijah to come.
What is, okay, so we've got the sour wine and the Elijah. What is that a bigger part of?
God tried.
Passover.
No, not quite.
Well, when they stabbed him in the side with the sword.
It's a spear.
Yes.
It's a spear.
It's a sword.
It was right here.
That was to make sure he was dead after he died.
Is it?
Okay, so these people, the people that he's on the cross with, the centurions that are down around him, the people that are down there watching him die, are like,
Mocking.
they're mocking him. They're giving him sour wine, like, like it's sour, it's gone bad. They're saying, oh, let's see if Elijah comes down and saves him since he's the king of God, or the son of God, he's the king of the Jews. Like, what? Who is this guy? Alright, so they're mocking him, they're making fun of him. So he's also suffering in that aspect.
What?
So what do we put on? What do we put?
Put where you see Jesus suffering, what we've talked about. Physical pain, mental abuse.
I get it.
Come at me, bro.
Okay, do you have any hot dogs? You said come at you, so why did you?
Jesus didn't say though, come at me, bro.
Yeah, I know.
Jesus hung there and he took it
Don't do that.
and he died.
I was saying like the people mocking him.
He suffered and died for us. He didn't fight it. Okay?
I was talking about
He
the
made
people
ultimate
mocking.
sacrifice.
I was talking about the people mocking him. Like,
Yeah.
come down and
All right.
hit me with the
So,
lightning bolt.
how do you guys see suffering in your own lives? Cora.
Like, if we're having a hard time in class and like we're not really getting it and the teacher's ignoring us, like at our school.
Yeah. So sometimes school.
Is this a word, homelessness?
Yes. Karis.
I was gonna say school. School's like suffering always.
School's always
Yeah.
suffering.
Why can't we all just have peace?
Okay. What about you personally? Have you suffered when people left?
Yes.
You are hungry. No.
Have you had
I have Ebola right now
Coughing.
because I'm dying.
No one
okay.
in this room has had
Jared, were you gonna say something?
You don't know that.
Well, like whenever,
I've been down with it.
whenever sometimes like people that are starving, like I think some people in Africa whenever they're starving, they hungry, they want food. Like whenever you go like you always, yeah.
So how do you guys see Jesus working through suffering? Charity today. Charity. How in charity?
Like in Africa with
helping other people that like really need it.
He's the money.
Okay.
like the people in Africa were sending like aid workers to go help with that.
Wait, I work for 8.
I see Jesus helping, like, in the people that are helping others, because he's sending them to do his work.
Well, wait, we have.
So Jesus, even though he may not be physically here in the form of a man, he is still with us in our suffering, in the suffering of the world. Okay?
Hospital.
So, those are the 3 pieces of Holy Week. These are stories that we hear every year. They're very important to who we are as God's people. There's the third part of the 3 days. So the great 3 days, we don't include Palm Sunday, that's the beginning of Holy Week, but there's something called the great 3 days. Maundy, Thursday, Good Friday, and then Easter. We're going to talk about Easter next week because that completes the picture. And so we go back and thinking when we remember Jesus, the trilogy. What's the trilogy when we remember Jesus?
Father, Son,
Father, the Holy
That's the Holy Trinity. When we're talking about communion, we come to the table and we remember
Bread,
Jesus.
wine.
We remember Jesus, his what?
Life,
body,
death,
and
and
his
resurrection.
Life, death, and resurrection, all right? So, in a way, the 3 days help us to remember that. Let's say that together.
Life,
death, and
resurrection.
resurrection. Okay? So Maundy, Thursday gives us a snapshot of his life. Humble service. That's what Jesus does. He serves others. Good Friday is his death, all right? Easter, then the third part we'll get to next week, is resurrection.
Wait, why is it Good Friday then?
Huh?
Why is it Good Friday?
Why isn't Good Friday?
Because he finished his work.
Why isn't it good?
Oh.
So,
Because he died.
Yeah, Jesus
died.
That's
Oh my gosh.
all right. So we'll pick up. We'll pick up. I've said this like 4 times in the last few minutes. Easter next week. So when we get to the end of this 40-day journey, remember, we're going to start Holy Week with Palm Sunday, Maundy, Thursday, Good Friday. Join us for those worship experiences because we really dig into what these things mean for us as people of God. We've got a couple of announcements for you, so everybody stay seated.
I need to stretch.
Everybody stay seated.